that frustrating waiting period ended up being a blessing for us.
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time amongst ourselves, but the waiting season is not a wasted season. It's a season of preparation and all the things.
Welcome back to the Commission to Go podcast. We're so grateful that you're here listening. Today we have brother and sister Nance with us, Emily and Garrett, and we would love to just hear your guys' story, a little bit about who you are, and then your take on missions, youth and our commission to go.
Awesome. I'm going to let Emily start.
So our story is we were engaged, and I was actually at a hyphen event, and Garrett was not there, and it was actually Taylor Fish preaching, and he came over. It was just like, you need to pray about the things that you've been praying about and really truly seeking in your heart. And so I was like, got on my hands and knees and began to pray, and Sister Cisco came and began to pray for me, and she came over and started talking about the things that I was going to do overseas. And it wasn't just something that was spoken. It was very powerful. Like, I knew, okay, this is something from God, this is something that I need to really listen to. And I came home and told Garrett, I was like, I called him and I said, hey, this happened, and I really think that we need to go overseas for at least a year just to see how it is. This is what I feel, and this, and he's like, no, we both had a burden for young people.
Yes.
And so we both knew that. And he's like, I just have a burden for young people. I don't see us going overseas. And we talked about it for at least a year. And I wanted to do it before children. And it just never really happened. We had 2 kids, and we were fine. We were youth pastors, and we were getting into the groove of everything, and it was just, we just felt like that's where we were. And then Garrett came home after finding out that I was pregnant again. He comes home after a prayer meeting and just felt that God had called him to the mission field. And I was like, no. We have 2 babies now.
To Emily's point, all I wanted to do with my life was just be a youth pastor. I didn't have that steady, maybe mentor role in a youth pastor when I was growing up. And I wanted to be that steady role for somebody. I wanted to be that youth pastor that impacted people. That was my entire life goal at that point. I just wanted to be the guy that helped encourage the youth and helped build the formative years of their life. Because being youth and hyphenage is the most formative years of your life. Yeah. It's where you build how would I say this? You're influenced the most in those years by people on the outside, by your new friends, by the school environment. If you go off to college, all your new friends in college and all these things, it's where you're getting the most outside influence on your life. And I wanted to make sure that kids had a strong foundation. That way, when they went to college, they knew what they believed in, they knew what they stood for, and they could stand firm in what they believed in. And I wanted to help build that foundation and kind of be that person, a role model for them. So I was very content with just being the youth pastor at our church. And like Emily mentioned, I went to a Saturday night prayer meeting at church, and we were in a span of time where we probably were baptizing at least 2 people every service. Like Sundays and Wednesdays, we were just baptized. We were having great revival at our home church. They had gone on for probably 3 or 4 weeks at this point. And I'm praying, and I'm just like, asking God, please can you please help send some more people? I mean, we're having great revival. Our youth group at this time, we probably had 6 or 8 new kids, something like that. We were having a lot of new kids in the youth group. We were having a lot of new people in the church, older, adult age people. And remember praying, I was like, God, please send more people to help us with all this. There's so many people. We need more people to help. And the Lord told me, I felt it so strongly. He said, I'm starting with you. And I remember like laughing in the prayer room. I'm like, that's funny. I'm already here. I'm like, I am here. I am helping. And it's almost like he said, no, you don't understand. I am starting with you. And I understood. It kind of just dropped in my spirit. At that moment, I understood he wasn't talking about just the home church. He was talking about a greater revival. He was talking about missions. And that kind of started the burden into Emily said. I went home and I was like, hey, we're doing this. And we just found out we were pregnant with our youngest son. And she was like, absolutely not. And so we really just prayed about it, and God confirmed it in a lot of different ways for us, both individually and together as a couple. That's important. And that was one thing that we prayed. To any listeners, if you don't feel the call at the same time, if you're married, for example, I would pray. I would pray all the time. Like, God, I know I feel the burden, but Emily has to feel it too.
Yeah.
Like, you're a unit.
Yeah.
And I used to pray, God, if we're going to do this, she's got to feel the same thing that I feel. She has to feel the burden too. And when it finally happened, I remember her telling me, she's like, it just felt like this, how do you explain it? Like a rock? You said, or like a boulder. She said, I could feel the heaviness of the burden. Not as a heaviness that's going to drag you down, that's overbearing, but when you feel the burden for souls, there is a certain heaviness to it that it carries with the call. And that's when we kind of knew, we're going to do this thing. And we made sure we cleared it. You want to make sure you have all the green lights. You don't want to run through any red lights. You want to make sure you have all the green lights from your pastor, your spiritual leaders, and make sure that they have, they have the full approval of them, and before you do anything. And so we just tried to follow all the right paths, make sure that we checked off all the boxes, had all the green lights before we went. And the rest, as they say, is history. I guess it's been great. I wouldn't change it for anything. It's been one of the greatest, probably one of the most fulfilling experiences of my entire life.
So, well, thank you for sharing your story and even the struggles in between, because a lot of people don't talk about, you hear preaching and you hear like, oh, we did this, this, and this. And it's like, oh, it was that easy, huh? You don't realize all the in-betweens, especially when you're married and being a unit and how that works, especially, as we continue with their generations and different things like that. We have even women missionaries that are just out there by themselves, which is incredible, unmarried and married. And it's incredible. But to people and youth, I heard a little birdie, so I'm going to back up a little bit in your story, if that's okay.
Perfect.
Our pastor's wife, Sister Marshall, she had said something to me that I really wanted to ask you about, and it's not really a question, but you'll maybe be able to tag along from where I'm going off of. She mentioned how something along the lines of like, and you touched on it, not having someone in your life, really growing up that helped you have that sturdy foundation. And I'm really trying to remember how she phrased it. But basically that like feeling and calling of like, I'm going to fulfill the shoes that I wish that were there for me.
Absolutely. So I growing up, I went to a wonderful church. And I have a lot of great things to say about that church, but we did not have a consistent youth leader. And I wish I would have had a consistent youth leader. And the Marshalls know this. I've told them, I said, man, it would have saved me a lot of headache in my college years. I feel like if I would have had somebody to help build that solid foundation. I've told people before, I was in church, but I don't know if I was really in church. I was physically there growing up, but I didn't have that deep-rooted relationship with God. And so that kind of goes to that point. I wanted to be that person for people. I remember, was it probably our first service as youth pastors on a Wednesday night, I preached on unity and how we were going to be this just unified body. And And I remember telling the youth, I said, if you ever need anything, I am here for you. You can call me at 2 a.m. and I will come and pick you up in my car, and I will not ask any questions. It's a judgment-free zone. You can come. I will not berate you. I will not make you feel bad. I will come and pick you up and take you to your house. And I will be there for you. And because I wanted to be that person, I wanted to be that strong role model that I wish I would have had. And again, I have nothing bad to say at all. I never personally had that. And, I went to college and spent 3.5, almost 4 years, never stepping a foot into a church, even though I grew up in church. And I feel, to that point, if I would have had that stronger relationship when I was younger, that role model to look up to, maybe it would have been a little bit different. So I just wanted to provide that for the next generation, because the future of our churches is the youth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're the ones that, I'm trying not to tell a bunch of stories, but I will tell one story.
Stories are okay.
Okay. So it's one of my favorite illustrations, but in Italy, there are olive trees. And these older olive trees produce the majority of the olive oil in the nation of Italy. And they have this fungus that'll grow and attack these trees and kill them. But the younger trees are immune to it. And they're not getting this fungus or whatever is growing on these older trees. And the way to heal the older trees, the way to cure them, is to get these pieces of these younger trees, is to let the younger trees be around the older trees. And the younger trees can help kill off the mold and help the olive the groves or orchards, help them survive and overcome the sickness. And I feel like that's a great representation of our youth. I feel like our youth can help kind of fight off that sickness of whatever it may be in a church or whatever it may be in an organization as a whole, that if we can have a strong youth, that is the future, and they can help bring, that new life and revival and help revive the older trees. So I just wanted to be that for them, help them, because they are the future of the church. I don't know if I missed anything, if you want to add anything. No,
the only thing is that actually Garrett and I both had inconsistency as a young person, and we're like, people would just leave, and as a young person you question, what happened, was it me, you have all these things, and it doesn't matter. Looking back, it doesn't matter if things happened in the past. We tried to be the best youth pastors that we could be, even though we didn't have that. And so just because, people may not have a great youth pastor or this great mega church or whatever, it doesn't mean that you're not equipped to succeed in your ministry. You can, with God, you can pursue that, even though your past isn't perfect and things were missing.
Absolutely.
I like that. So for the person who feels like they have had inconsistencies throughout their life, so they feel like they can't find unity, or maybe they're a part of a youth group or a young adult group and they feel like they can't connect, because it can be scary if you are, maybe I'm taking this the wrong way, but like if you have inconsistencies with people, so it can be scary sometimes to trust somebody, because it feels like, if I let them in, then they're just going to leave. So how do we break that cycle or that thought process to become unified with our youth group, with our young adults, and with our church? If that made sense.
It does. That was something that we dealt with as youth pastors, and the group that was before us was amazing. And even our own youth group didn't have anything bad to say about them, but they left kind of abruptly. And that's one thing that we had to do as youth leaders, is we had to gain their trust. As if there's a youth leader listening and you're listening to this, you just work on, you hear all the time is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Right. We want to show them that we cared, because we truly did care. It wasn't a front that we put on. You can't fake that. You have to really care for them. Right. And so we just tried, caring goes a long way. That was maybe the one thing that made a difference, I feel like, in our group, and that showed them that we could be one. I mean, we prayed with our youth group every Wednesday. We prayed with them every Sunday. We had 2 services on Sunday morning and Sunday night. We were there. We were praying with them. We were trying to be one group. We would pray as a group. Even when new students would come into the church, I had this rule with the kids, like, I don't want to see a guest come into the church without you going and talking to them. I was like, and I don't want to have to be the one that goes and tells you to talk to them. Yeah. You should want to go and talk to them. Well, how would you feel if you were new to the church and nobody came and talked to you? We want to be a friendly and welcoming church. And it was cool because, you preach that for so often. And then one Sunday night, I saw some new kids come in, a new family come in, and without being asked, I watched our kids go and start talking to them and talking to the young girl, and there was a young man. The boys were all over there talking to him and trying to be friends with him. And Emily and I went and talked to their mom, and the mom after service she came and she thanked us. And she's like, you don't understand how much it means. She's like, your group made our kids feel like they were at home. And I feel like that goes a long way to your question, when they're new to the church. And that's how we bring unity in, is we are a unit. I preached it a lot. I preached about a barrel of monkeys is what I preached about, and how there's different links, right? Each arm of the monkey links into the next arm, and it builds a chain, a strong chain. And I tried to build that. Just, it's hard to do, but we just spent a lot of time with each other. Yeah. We spent a lot of time with each other. We were hanging out every week. I saw them probably 4 or 5 times a week, just because different events and things we tried to do. I mean, we'd hang out on Fridays, maybe just game nights or something at the house, just be with our friends. And then eventually, as a youth pastor, we did that enough to where they were doing it on their own. The youth were to a point where, hey, we would see on social media or something that all the ladies went to the mall, and they went and hung out at the mall and did all this cool stuff. And the guys were over here doing something together. And we didn't do anything, but we had just spent enough time together that they wanted to be around each other. I think part of that too is I firmly believe that your youth group should be the group that you're friends with for forever. That was something that was preached to me when I was a youth. It's like, hey, this is the group that you should be able to always go, and if I need something, I can go and call my brother that was in the youth group with me. And there's still guys to this day that I know if I ever needed a thing, I could call my friends from when I was in the youth group and say, hey man, I really need some help. Could you help me? And they would be there for me, because that's just the community that we tried to build.
That's awesome. Jumping back forward now. Yeah. All over the place. No. So when you guys felt the call to missions and you finally came in together and said, all right, we're going to do this thing. You got all the green lights and everything. What did that look like? Not necessarily like the process of going through all the programs of everything, but like mentally and emotionally did you know where you were going to go specifically? Did you know specifically where you were called to? And you shared a little bit of that earlier, to where you are going now versus where you just came from.
So Garrett knew that whenever he felt it, he immediately knew it was Iceland, because no one was there, and he wanted to reach souls that were lost. And so he knew it was Iceland, and he did a bunch of research, and I did not. And I told Garrett it was not because I didn't want to go, because like I said, like I've wanted to go. I just didn't feel that was my season. And so I just kept praying about it, and he researched it all, which I highly recommend. That's what you should do. I did not want to be swayed. That was my thing. So I kept telling him, God's going to have to tell me with his voice and say, Emily, you need to go. Like that was my thing. And eventually I had the baby, and I think it was just my season. I was carrying a child, and that was my season, and I didn't need that burden. And so God didn't put that burden on my heart until after I was in the hospital and I knew, okay, like I knew I'm going to go to Finland. Like we're going to Iceland. And so God eventually put that on my heart. And we agreed, we were praying about it. And we both just felt like Iceland wasn't our next exit destination. And so we were praying, okay, you know, this is what we feel like we need before we get to the field. And we had our list of things that we were wanting from God. And we just were praying about it. And we went to, because of the times, ran into a missionary. And he was like, you know, I don't know what's going on in Finland, but this is what's going on in Spain. And he just sat there and listed every single thing that we were praying about.
Wow.
And we were in the parking lot after talking to him, and I said, Garrett, we need to pray about Spain. Like, I'll go to Spain, but we need to pray about it. And we prayed about it, and we visited. And before we went, I had talked to a missionary, and she was a mother, and I was asking her these questions about, you know, how do you travel in Spain? And, you know, what is it like? And before I hung up, I just felt God telling me, you know, you're going to see this horse and you're going to know. And so we went to Spain, and we went to the city that we thought we were going to be in, and we loved it. And went to a city, which is Barcelona, and we were just like, this is really dark. Like,
Spiritually.
Like you just feel the heaviness. And that's where I found the horse. And I was like, oh, Spain. Yeah, like, okay, we found the horse, you know.
Yeah.
Go back home. And, and we realized that, you know, like Barcelona is where the training is. Like that's everything where my list was, is all in Barcelona. But God gave me that to know, even though it was dark and heavy, that's where I needed to be. Because if I did not have that horse, we would not have gone to Barcelona. So I knew that God had given me that. And we went to Barcelona, and people think, you know, well, I thought it was always Finland or Iceland. Like, where's all these countries coming from? And God's ministry isn't a ladder, like
it's not a straight line.
Yeah, like a secular job. You know, you kind of start from the bottom, you work your way up, and ministry just isn't like that. And so we started out in Spain as a training ground for our family. And so Finland is kind of like another stepping stone. And the training in Spain really has been a bridge. And so much has happened in Spain to prepare us for Finland. And it makes so much sense, even though, you know, outside looking in, you're like, that makes no sense to go to. But it really, it has prepared us so much to go to Finland and Iceland that it's just been God. And the moment that we said yes, there's been doors closed and doors open. And it's like every time we just step, we have literally felt the hand of God on our feet. And we've just been so at peace with everything. And, you know, we have 2 kids. So our parents were not happy about us going overseas. And so, you know, we loved being youth leaders. We loved our youth. We loved what was going on in our church. We loved our city. And so the fact that we just left was so hard, but it felt so good. It was just so right. And so...
Yeah, to tag on to that, I mean, you want to, this is a popular saying in missions, but you want to follow peace.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard that before too. It's probably popular outside of missions, but you want to follow peace. Because when stuff starts to go wrong, and it will, and life is not perfect, even for believers, it's never going to be perfect.
Right.
But you want to follow peace and follow the will of God. And when you're in his will, you feel the peace. And that way, when things do go wrong, and they will, or things get hard, because they will get hard, you can rest assured and know that I am in the will of God because I feel the peace. And it makes everything so much easier to know that you're in his will. When things get tough, you have to know that you're in his will.
I love that. Since you guys had the peace, I'm going to just assume that this doesn't apply. But did it ever feel like you guys talked about your stepping stones and it doesn't make sense? My end goal is Iceland. You know, we're supposed to go to Finland, Iceland. Does it ever feel like almost, okay, Spain is a way, almost a compromise or a settling? You know, if you didn't have that peace there, is that what it could have felt like, do you think? I don't know. I'm always like, does that make sense? Because I don't know if I can phrase things appropriately.
I understand. I understand completely what you're asking. For us, we maybe didn't have that situation because Brother Poitras, this is his phrase. I want to give him credit for this, but he always says that following the will of God is as easy as doing the next right step. You just want to follow the next right step. So he said, doing the will of God is as easy as following the next right step. And so that's what we've been trying to do, is follow the next right step. We have a goal. The goal is to get to Iceland. But we knew that wasn't the right first step for us. So we wanted to follow the next right step. That next right step was Spain. And if we would have never gone to Spain, we would have never learned Spanish.
Right.
And you're like, why does Spanish matter if you're going to Finland? Well, the top 3 unreached people groups in Finland are all Spanish speaking. So if we would have never went to Spain, we would have never learned Spanish. We would have never had the capability or the toolkit, if you will, to reach those unreached people groups in Finland. We wouldn't have probably had the connections maybe that we got, because we had the training center that we were in really helped ease us into to Finland. They helped us get connected with the missionaries there. They helped us, facilitate a trip to Finland, where we were able to go to a prayer conference there in Finland and really connect with the church and really connect with the team before we're even a part of the church, which I think that's vital. We kind of skipped over it, but we went on a trip to Spain before we even went as Amers. And a lot of people call it, we were spying out the land, just like they did in the Old Testament. We wanted to make sure that we were in God's will. So we wanted to make sure, this kind of ties into your question. Our pastor was very adamant about it. He's like, we want to make sure that it's the right place and it's the right time. So it could be the right place, but maybe it's not the right time, or maybe, now is the time to go, but like Spain's not it. Right. So we went, and I think, we saw the statue and all these things, right? And it checked off all the boxes, and it confirmed a lot of that stuff for us. So that's why it didn't feel like a compromise. We knew that we needed training. That was one of the things that was on our list. And we were able to get that in Spain. So it never really felt, I would say, it never really was a compromise. It was a lot of equipping. It was a lot of building for us. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, so I knew going into Spain that more than likely we were going to go to Finland next. But I did not feel a burden for Finland. I didn't feel a burden for Iceland. But I knew, okay, that is a possibility, and I'm okay with that. But God never gave that to me when I went to Spain. And which isn't a bad thing, but I was open to it and willing to go. And so when we went to Spain, we were there for about a month and a half, and we were in a training lesson about the unreached people groups.
Yeah.
And we were praying over a map, and it was like God just gave me this island, and it was Iceland, and I knew it was Iceland. And I never felt what I felt in that moment for people that I've never seen in my life. I've never been there. I knew it was dark, but I've never seen them. And God gave me that burden. And that alone was worth spending a year in a foreign country with a language that I can survive talking, but I couldn't get my way through. Garrett's he's my translator. but you know, that alone was worth it because that's what God gave me. And to also answer your question, a year in a foreign country, even with 5 families that you know, it was very isolated and very lonely. And so you had to have a personal relationship with God. And, you know, even with that alone, it was hard. And there was moments where you were just tired and you're just like, God, why Spain? You know, why this when we were here for a month and you gave it to me, you know, why am I having to spend here for a year? And there was those moments, to be honest, you know, you have those thoughts, but it was almost immediately God gave us peace and was like, there's a reason for this season. And we had trouble with our visas and it delayed us about 5 months to get to Spain. And we were at peace about it. And we were just like, okay, there's a reason for it. And frustrating, but we knew there was a reason for it. And we get into language class, and 2 weeks before my class ended, I met a Norwegian girl. And they're very quiet and they're very to themselves. And she actually was drawn to me and we immediately became friends. And I had this super special relationship with her. And we connected so easily. And I was able to give her three Bible studies. And after the first one, she said, Emily, before the Bible study, she looked at me and she said, I don't know why, but I feel something so special about this connection. And I know there's a reason why. I've easily became your friend and there's something here. And I said, I know why. And we began to have Bible studies with her. And she said, the more the Bible studies we had with her, she said, you know, I want to pray. Like, I have never had this hunger to pray. And I pray every day now. And it was 3 Bible studies, but I hung out with her multiple times and we just kept talking about God. And then that's whenever we started doing Bible studies. But I mean, you know, just those 2 things, you know, I mean, to spend a year in Spain was well worth every struggle I had, you know? And so.
Yeah. I mean, and to piggyback on that, I mean, don't get frustrated in the things that seem like they're problems. We were having a hard time getting our visa. Well, you know, the value of the dollar like crashed compared to the euro in the middle of our waiting time, which if we would have gone when we thought we would have gone and gotten an apartment and all these things, we would have not been able to afford it because the dollar just lost its strength against the euro within, you know, a handful of months. And so you don't see it in a moment, but that was a blessing in disguise, is the delay, because we had the delay. Well, we were able to get an apartment that was in our budget. Then, you know, throughout the course of the year, the dollar began to gain its strength back. And so, you know, if we had, you know, the other way around, we would have probably been home early because we would have not been able to afford the apartment because food, everything. But we were able, you know, that frustrating waiting period ended up being a blessing for us. We talk about this all the time amongst ourselves, but, you know, the waiting season is not a wasted season. It's a season of preparation and all the things. Yeah.
Being someone also that feels called to missions and being delayed in seasons that I never expected, I've come in contact with a lot of people, young people that are like, well, I feel the calling to either just preach or to missions. And as a person, you know, that's looking for a spouse and like all these different things. And one thing I learned in Bible college is that a missionary doesn't have to marry a missionary, essentially. Like as long as you're willing and feel the call of God and that willingness to do anything, go anywhere, that God will take you. What would you say to a young person who maybe has fear of that? Fear of, like, I don't feel the call to missions, but like, what if God calls me? Or like you were in the season of being a motherhood, and you're like, God, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like I thought that was past. You said that you felt the calling first, and then it was like, well, we're in a different season. So what would you say to somebody who kind of might be in that in-between?
How would you start?
In the in-between, there's something that you had said, and I would make a list. And I would make a list and pray over the list of whatever your in-between is. So whether it's you're waiting for a spouse, and when we were dating, I made a list for Garrett, and I made a list for my husband, and one of it was being willing. And so I asked Garrett, before anything ever happened, I asked him, if we are going to go on the mission field, are you willing to go? And he said that God would have to tell him, but he's willing to go. And so I would make a list, and I would do as much as you can. Just have a strong relationship with God. And because the further along you are, the harder, it's just reality, the harder it gets to have that relationship and to start growing. So I would definitely start growing in that relationship with God and reading the Bible and just diving deep and deeper into Him. The other thing is just do as much as you can here before that season comes. So if it is missions, but you're in motherhood, don't do what I did and not research things. Definitely research and find out, where your heart is, or just a knowledge. Like I wish that he was reading things about the guidelines of missionaries, and I wish I was doing that just to get an insight of what that had looked like. And I didn't want to be persuaded, so I didn't. But I wish I would have did that to get more of an insight of what was he looking at. So I would just start preparing as much as you can before you get there.
And I have a question for what you said. So you've said list several times, and did you ever feel like you had a list versus a petition to the Lord? And if you don't know what I mean by that, I can maybe elaborate.
I'm going to bust it out. I think I still have it.
I don't know about, what do you mean by petition?
So there's been different times in my life where, like when I went to Bible college, I felt like I put a petition before the Lord, and I said, I want these things to happen before, like during this season of life or during this time, and the Lord fulfilled every single one. Mm-hmm. Whereas in like a list for like a husband and the things that you're looking for, mm-hmm. I feel like it's a little different. And maybe it's not, I don't know, maybe it's just the way that I feel. But there's just been different things of like that have happened in my life. When I went to Israel, like I put a petition before the Lord, and I said, God, I would just really love it if you would fulfill these things, if these things mm-hmm. could happen. And it's just like every single one happened. And it was just beautiful. Anyways, my whole point, I guess, is saying like, do you ever feel like there's a time and place like where you had a list versus like a petition before the Lord, where it's, I guess, I almost take it as like in the Old Testament when there was intercession, and it was like, God, would you do this? Would you do that? And I think I take that more as a petition before the Lord. And so I didn't know if there was any differentiation between like the different times that you might have done that.
I probably personally combined the two, I guess, in my head. And so the list for my husband was, God, give me this. Like, this is what I need, or this is what I think I need. And it wasn't like, it was stuff that I had prayed about and what I felt that I needed, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so I was I was just praying over it as, I was praying for him is what I was doing. And even in Spain, we were, same thing, we prayed about what we needed. And as we prayed about it, whether it was God or my brain, we would write it down like, okay, this is what we need. We need to be surrounded by families and support. We need somewhere where it's safe for our family, but safe for us to learn. There's things that we were just praying about and that would kind of come to us, maybe not all at once, but just slowly. And we just began to pray over that list to find it. So once God gave us that list, we were just like whenever the missionary gave us the list of all that was going on, we immediately knew, okay, this is it. Yeah. And that's what we've been praying for.
I feel like Emily probably petitioned. I'm probably listed more. And I carry it around still. So this is my list. And it's in my wallet. And inside my list is my prayer cloth. It's been anointed and prayed over. And I fold my little prayer cloth inside this list. But this was a list. It even says missions in Spain on the top of it. And this was my list of things that I was looking for. I say it's more of a list for me because it was necessarily more of a list of wants. It wasn't like I need to have these things. It was more of like it would be cool to have these things, which is why I say it's more of a list. And it's simple things that you don't even think about, but friends, like on here, friends for my children, that they would enjoy their time in the missions field. I on my list on here was to be able to help the church and the surrounding works. That wasn't necessarily a petition, but that's just a list of things that would be cool to me. See signs, miracles, and wonders. Have revival. This is a simple list. I have revival. Have a house that supplies our needs. It's simple things, but so mine was more of a list probably than I feel like Emily's was more of a petition. She prayed over a little bit more than I did. But hey, this is a great, to anybody out there, to me, this was we'd go to prayer meetings at the church on a Tuesday or Thursday, Saturday, and I had this with me. And if I could hold it in my hand and I could pray, and it was the tangible list of things that I could pray over and things that I wanted. So, yeah.
It's beautiful to remind ourselves that God cares about the little things, and everything. But he cares about the big, but he also cares about the small. Did you have anything else before? Okay. Well, real quick, from your guys' story and with the mindset of we are called to go, that could be into your community, that could be into your school, that could be across the world. From your story, what is one or maybe two takeaways that you would tell young people, youth, whatever, from your story that you learned that you would want them to know?
You want me to go first? Okay. I won't steal Emily's because Emily's is really good and I probably know where you're going to go. And I would just say, go. It was Brother Jim Sleva who is really coined the term, but exposure breeds a burden. If you feel called, go. If you have the ability to go, just go. Not only will you be a blessing to the nation that you go to, but you will be blessed. The first time we ever went to Spain, I remember walking into the church, and it was prayer meeting, I think, before service, and I was just a puddle of tears. Like I am bawling because even though I did not have the level of Spanish then that I do now, the Spirit knows no language barriers. The presence of God has no barriers. There is no language barrier. And I felt the same presence that I had felt back home. And I saw the sincerity in everybody's hearts. And I feel like that first trip changed me more than I ever impacted them. I would say just go, and we didn't talk about a lot of this stuff, but I have never seen the hand of God in our lives as powerfully as I did when we said yes. I've never prayed over people and saw them be healed. I'm talking ladies with walkers that couldn't walk without a walker, could barely walk, that walked away down the hall after praying, that walked away after praying for her, and she forgot that she had left her walker because she no longer needed her walker anymore. I had never seen any of that stuff until I said yes. Just, say yes.
Oh.
And I would add one more thing is when you get there, I've never really heard anybody say this before, but I read it in a book and I loved it. Is walk slowly through the crowd. When you get there, walk slowly through the crowd. Take your time. Be intentional about everything. So when you do get there, walk slowly through the crowd. Don't be in such a hurry from point A to point B that you don't take the time to recognize the soul that needs Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. We want to see people as Jesus saw them. We want to see them as souls. So see them as souls. Walk slowly through the crowd. Take your time walking from A to B. I used to not like to take the metro because I wanted to walk. I wanted to see the people. It gave me more opportunities to interact. It gave me, I could be intentional about going and talking to somebody. It gave me the opportunity to walk into a coffee shop and strike up a conversation with somebody. I made great friends with people in coffee shops. I loved coffee. I think they liked getting my money, and I was able to strike up conversations with them about our church. Why are you here? I'm an American that's speaking Spanish in Spain. Why are you here? I can talk to them exactly why I'm here. People that have problems and say, hey, I know a guy. His name is Jesus, and he can take care of that issue. Walk slowly through the crowd. That would be my two pieces of advice to anybody.
Mine would be to be fat. A missionary in Guatemala said to be fat. It is flexible, available, and teachable. And in any ministry
Yes.
that you do, as long as you're flexible, available, and teachable, you can do or can do anything.
You'll go a long ways.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time before you leave our small town of Lewiston. We really appreciate you sitting down and sharing the nuggets of gold, and you're paving a way for this next generation. And thank you so much. And we're excited, and we'll be praying with you guys for Iceland and all the adventures that you're going to have with the Lord.
Awesome.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all.